George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the Nation. It is the second day of Kwanzaa. And of course, we celebrate Kujichagulia to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. And so we continue on with our series. We've asked notables who we think can answer the question, what does the Kwanzaa principle mean to you? We're asking how we can live the seven principles. So we're pleased to be joined by Jackie Grace. She's an author, right, sister? You know what I'm saying? And a storyteller, griot,
yes.
right? And I could not think of anyone better to talk about Kujichagulia and what it means and how we can live Kujichagulia as we close out 2021 and as we ring in 2022. How you doing, sister?
I am so well, thank you. By God's grace, I'm here. I am totally honored that you have asked me to just talk to you, chat to you, basically because I really truly respect you so much. I think you are the bomb, and
Appreciate it.
that for you to ask me to do this, I immediately accepted and said, "Of course I will. I would love to speak to you, George."
Appreciate that. So let's talk about Kujichagulia and how you embody that in your life.
Yeah. George, I started thinking about that and I realized I need to probably take you back a little bit.
Come on
I'm
now.
originally from yeah, I'm originally from Pike Road, Alabama. And Pike Road, if you go there now, it's actually called Pine Ridge Plantation.
Mm,
So I grew up in a time, George, where it was the segregated South,
mm,
where there were white only and colored only signs, where I went to a totally Black school, where my parents were sharecroppers, where I picked cotton and hauled water and chopped wood and, was way back in the woods off the main road. And I can tell you that upbringing was one of the most valuable places for me to have ever been. And the reason being is that my grandparents, my aunts and uncles and cousins lived down the road. They were, further down, but I saw them every day. And every day I felt this sense of love, of security. They gave me the confidence that I needed. They were always complimenting. They were always asking what you're going to be when you grow up. So they kept me pretty much anchored and pretty much uh, focused on I have a purpose. What am I going to do? What am I going to be?
mm.
And none of the background of what I shared with you mattered to me because I was surrounded by those that actually buttressed me.
Mm, mm, mm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Those that made me feel. My family moved to Syracuse when I was 12 years old. That foundation was the most important foundation that anyone could have had. Basically, because I will never ever forget that. I
Mm,
never forget where I came from. And so I felt this sense of purpose that when I was in school, that I was the best that I could be in school, that I learned, that I really truly focused in on how it was that I was learning, what I was learning, and that I wanted to be a person that was an educator. So that was my goal. I wanted to take care of children. I wanted to teach children. I felt that education was important. As you know, my high school sweetheart and I, Ted Grace, actually started a daycare center basically because of of my goal to raise others to realize that they could be excellent. It could be, the best that they could be. And so my goals were always in front of me. What did I want to do? What did I want to be? And what kind of person did I want to be? So I worked hard at just being a good person. That was foremost. That was most important to me. Being a good person, caring about my community, caring about my people, making sure that we understood, as they say now, I love how they say what the assignment is.
Yes.
The assignment basically was to never forget, to let that be what pushes you, to all of the hardship. Yes, all of that happened. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as you think about all of that,
All of the atrocities happen. Yes, but that is what I'm going to prove. Yes, yes. All of that is why I'm here.
yeah, and you said that you had to, what did you have to prove though? You said you had to prove something.
Yeah, I felt that I needed to prove that I was just as smart. I felt that I needed to prove that I was just as good, that I had the potential, that it didn't matter my color, that it didn't matter all of the negatives. None of that stuff matters to me. What matters is what do you do with that?
Yeah.
Where does that take you? You know what I mean? And I felt the same way about COVID. What do you do with that? Right? Where does that take you? So on the other side, who you going
to be? And one of the things that I observe about,
and the discrimination.
yeah, what are you going to do with that? And what are you going to do and be on the other side? And one of the things I've observed about you, watching you throughout the years, is that, and I don't know how you do this, and you tell me if my perception is right, but many of us are unable to show up fully as our authentic African selves in every space we're in, and let that be the influence of, like, in other words, instead of me having to accommodate, I show up and bring me, and then people then accommodate who I am because I'm so self-assured and self-determined, right? And so, and in the principle, in the spirit of defining, naming, creating, and speaking for ourselves, is that something that, and you go back to the Pine Ridge plantation in Alabama, is that something that you had to gain, or is that just something that you always had and you always did, and you always were able to be that, as I observe it?
Right. I believe that God's mercy, blessings, and favor have always been on me. And I've always felt this responsibility that I'm representing. And so that's anywhere. So I always feel that I'm an example. I feel that I'm a mentor. I feel that God's looking at me, and God is basically saying, so how are you going to handle that? Are you bringing your best self to that situation? And so I'm always aware of me. I'm always aware of eyes. And some things I do intentionally, to say, if my grandchildren are around, sometimes I do things so that they can learn a lesson from my experience, right? And even though they probably get it or not, I think later on down the road that they will get it. And a good example of that, George, is I decided that I wanted to, as an old lady, ride a motorcycle. Right?
Oh, here we go.
So I decided that I was, yeah, I've always been infatuated with them, and I'm going to get my lessons. My son-in-law bought me a motorcycle, and so I'm going to ride this motorcycle. I go to the motorcycle classes that were behind Shopping Town, and my first attempt at the lessons, I didn't do well. So unfortunately, on my way back from being rejected, I said, oh my God, I'm going to walk into a birthday party. One of my grandchildren had a birthday party. And so I opened the gate to the backyard, and all of them, it was like E.F. Hutton. They were all quiet, waiting for me to wave, I'm sure, my certificate of passing. And on my way home, I said, this is good. This is good. I said, this is a lesson. I said, this is going to be a great lesson. Do not be disappointed. I'm talking to myself now. Do not be disappointed. It's a lesson for the grands. So I opened the gate to the backyard. They were all looking at me, and I said, no, I didn't get it. They all said, oh. I said, no. I said, that gives me even better reason to practice hard, to be really good at riding that motorcycle. I said, the instructor didn't want me to harm myself and others. And there's this chant that you put your mind to it. So my secretary brought her motorcycle to practice that motorcycle before work. And I did it every day for 2 weeks. I called the instructor and said, I am ready. He said, what? I said, I am ready. And so in those 2 weeks, I practiced and I got my motorcycle license. And to me, it was a lesson for me and for my grands, so that they could see that, yes, indeed we fail. Yes, indeed there's adversity. Yes, indeed we are rejected. But guess, do your best and try your best.
Do your best and try your best. So in thinking about this principle of Kwanzaa, and you tell stories, if you will, don't you have a story about Kujichagulia?
It's actually the Kwanzaa tale that actually has all the principles. Yeah, it has all the principles in it. And one part of the story about Kujichagulia is a young man whose name is Juan comes out to play with his friends, and their favorite thing to do together is to jump double Dutch. They were the double Dutch champions. He comes out and he announces to his friends, from now on, friends, I want you to call me Jawanzu. No longer call me Juan, I'm Jawanzu. I was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, and he changed his name from Malcolm to El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, and that means something. So my name, Jawanzu, means something. And besides that, I am going to be a doctor. Anzu, and no, you can't be no doctor because there are not any blacks their perspective, and he changed their minds. And very quickly, they started calling him Jawanzu because he wanted them to call him that. He named himself, and he was determined to become that doctor. And he, in school, did everything that he could do to be a student of excellence. So that's a part of Kwanzaa tale.
I love that. I love that. And I guess looking ahead to this next year, as someone who has been able to create for herself and name herself, right? What's your recommendation to others on how to speak for themselves, name for ourselves, for our community and for ourselves going forward? And in addition to having to deal with this pandemic, which I don't know, I mean, you're in Tennessee, we should say, right? And I don't know how they're doing it down there, but, you know, at the time of our conversation, you know, things are escalating, you know, very much. Yes. And we're back on that side of it. So even within that, what's your recommendation? What is your suggestion? What's your encouragement for people around this principle of Kujichagulia, naming, speaking, creating, and defining for ourselves?
Yes, I think it's important for us to ask ourselves a central question: who are you?
Mm.
And who you're gonna be, right? When we ask ourselves that question, then that means that we are not followers, that we are in charge of our thinking, of our mind, of our actions. And so the pandemic has gotten us to a point where we are alone and
Mm-hmm.
we're thinking, right? We are isolated, we are quarantined, and it gives us room and space and time to think about who we are and who we're going to be. And I think it's important for us to actually have a vision for ourselves. Who are we, right? And am I going to do what Jimmy down the road is doing? Am I going to allow them to call me lazy or whatever? I actually read an article today, George, from Malani Karinga, the creator of Kwanzaa. And he talked about Kujichagulia in that, you know, folks will tell you that you are there, anybody define you that way. And how dare we let you? However it is that we do it, we are essential. And we are essential because God has made us that. Because God is in charge. He's given us our talents. He's given us our gifts. He's given us our charge. He's given us our assignments. So we all are essential. And how are we going to name that? I am a lawyer. I am a doctor. I am a caretaker. I am a teacher. I am a mother. I am a father. I am indeed essential. My community needs me. The world needs me. And more importantly, I need me. And that's where that self-care and that self-love comes in, where you literally are taking care of yourself. You're making sure that you're eating well, that you're exercising. You're making sure that you're praying, that you're meditating. You're making sure that you're making phone calls and letting people know that you're thinking about them. You're making sure that you care, that we understand that our assignment is not really only about us. Our assignment is to take care of God's creatures. And that is what makes us better people. That's what we want. On the other side of this, we want to have thought about ourselves and be determined that we are going to be the best that we can be.
Jackie Grace, author, storyteller, griot, Inspiration for the Nation. The second day, the second principle, Kujichagulia, to name, create, and define for ourselves. Jackie, where can they find your book?
You can actually go on to Facebook and direct message me, give me your name, your address, and all that good stuff, and I will be glad to mail for free those books to you. My books now, because I've moved and have basically this connect, you can actually directlie ask me, connect with me, and I will be very happy to share some of my books with you.
Jackie Grace, that's JACKIE GRACE on Facebook. The books are a different name, but that's a whole other. It's the same name, a different spelling.
Yes.
She's Jack E. Grace on her author E. Yes, Jack E. Grace. Yes. Well, Jackie, it was always a pleasure. We call you the Queen Mother. We appreciate you and the work that you're doing, celebrating Kujichagulia, the second principle of Kwanzaa. We thank you. We honor you. Ashe.
Ashe. My pleasure. Thank you.
Inspiration for the Nation.